Good morning and welcome to Facebook Live. It's Tuesday morning, and today we are talking about family, caregiving, and the use of technology. And of course, I'm having my own private giggle fest over here in the Comox Valley as I tried to get off my phone connection to do Facebook Live and move into my MacBook Air process. And we know what the outcome is. It did not work. So Wendy needs probably a good half hour to understand how to make that transition. So I thought it was very fitting that I would have my own challenges with technology, even though on most days it really helps me with my own life and job, but also in some of the work that I do with family caregivers. Um, so anyway, there's just our morning laugh and just remembering that sometimes when technology doesn't work, it doesn't work. And when it does, it's amazing. So it was interesting, as we were looking at different topics to explore, and we talk about technology and how it can improve caregiving. Uh, it's always nice when we hear stories or we even go through it personally with our own family caregiving, the use of technology. And so I was thinking about just before the holidays, one of our family members was hospitalized, and of course it was back in a different province, and there was lots of COVID protocols still in place, so none of us could get in to see um, our loved one. And so we went through all the processes. We're texting each other, we've got online documents, we're doing phone consults, we're setting up transportation using online systems. We're talking to our loved ones, using video conferencing. And so at the end of that, I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe how much uh, caregiving is done by technology now than what it was, of course, prior to COVID. But even prior to COVID, we were still certainly using technology as family caregivers. And so in some ways there's like this real reliance on technology. I think about some of the families that I work with here in the Comox Valley, and all of them are long distance, and so we have to use technology all the time to communicate, for them to be able to see their loved one. And I was thinking about thinking back about what were some of the things that we were considering, um, in how to ensure that we had the right technology in place. So today's focus is not going to be so much on making recommendations, because that's impossible, but to talk about some of the technology based tools that broadly exist, and maybe also how to find the right tool for caregiving. So what we do know is that caregivers are relying increasingly on technology to coordinate care. So whether it's making appointments or even sharing documents online, um, organizing services, a lot of that ends up being done online, and that more and more we're seeing that families really rely on technology to stay in contact with the people they're caring for, especially within certain limitations, but also if you live long distance from a family member. Um, a lot of us are using, there's different types of technology. So there's, technology for our actual role as a caregiver. It's also, technology on managing care of the person we're caring for, and even managing our own care. So what we wanted to talk about today is, how do you find the right digital tool for caregiving? And we're going to pull in some examples from some of the work that we do and things that we've heard from other caregivers. So what we do know is that when you start trying to find a tool, or you just bombarded with the number of options and different apps, and so it can be actually really quite overwhelming trying to find the right tool to start with. And one thing I will say is that there are some really good uh, designated sites that, for example, dementia. there are really good sites around, certain dementia apps. Um, if you're looking for specifically for, healthcare, monitoring healthcare, there's some really good applications, in those particular areas. So understanding, that's kind of sort of the first thing, is understanding what you want the app or the application or the technology for is a really good starting place. So we touched on some of them. But there are a number of ways that we can use technology. So first of all, we can use technology even for the health and well-being of the caregiver themselves. And that's one thing we generally, tend to work with family caregivers. And all of us have different mechanisms for that. Like, so for example, I know the Apple Watch is a really good app for that. You can get all these different um, add-ons where it, monitors your heart rate. It can monitor the number of steps that you take. You can set goals, all of that. And then of course there's other other applications for the health and well-being of the caregiver. So that's just one example. Organizing and coordinating healthcare appointments and access to healthcare providers. So often now, some medical clinics and other, even our, the local hospital here, we all use an online booking system. And so, the bulk of appointments that even we're engaging in, we're using an online booking system or a text-based system. So understanding the scope of what's available with that, and then how it integrates into your own, calendar system. And that's whatever system you use, whether it's your Google Calendar or other ones. How is that integrated with other people on your care team? So I know in my own private business where I support seniors here and family caregivers who live long distance, we have a system where we have calendars for each client, and family members have access to those calendars as well, so they can see all the appointments that um, we've booked, or if they need to add something, they can add something, and then we have documents that they can access associated with that. And so some families end up doing that as well. When they're sharing the care, they end up having using an online calendar, online document system to keep track of everything to do with the care of the person they're caring for. So that's an idea around that. The other one is improving the safety and well-being of the care recipient. So things like even a personal emergency response system, those have really changed over time. So now we have GPS based watches or pendants that someone can go out on their scooter, or if they live alone, or if they're at risk of a fall, or just safety is a concern. Then there's also those options for individuals to be able to improve the peace of mind, but also the safety of the person who's living alone, or who wants to have full independence, but still have a safety net underneath them. And that's just one example. There's there's other products, for example, that allow individuals to see who's at the door prior to answering the door. There's systems that monitor when people come and go from their home. So especially individuals that perhaps again want to have full independence, but the caregivers want to ensure their safety. Then there's some mechanisms that alert them that, okay, the person I'm caring for has left the home, and I expect them, we sort of expect them to come back at a certain time. And if they don't, then we know, then we have some measures in place to ensure that there's, their safety and well-being. So those are some methods. There's also things just, kind of around the home, like you can put things on timers and all of that. And then you can often, control those from your phone. Staying connected, we've seen a huge increase in devices. And this is one area where I've certainly noticed a lot of change. And one of the challenges I think about maybe 10 years ago, when there was the introduction of these great phones where they had, big buttons, and the person could just press on, the person's picture, and then it would just, call them to try and help, reduce, difficulty using the phone. And now there's sort of these same systems with these video devices where essentially people can video conference the person they're caring for, and they just have to like hit the screen and it comes up. They don't actually have to do anything else. So there's been lots of progress around some of those different tools that can really help keep people connected. We just recently, for example, purchased a, uh, a frame for our mom, and because she lives long distance, and it's all controlled by our account on our phone, and so we can just upload these photos on our phone and just share them to this frame that she has, and they just pop up automatically, and then other family members can do the same. So she has this full live stream of family photos, and then you can delete the ones that become obsolete or older. So even that was really fascinating to just see how all of that worked, and for her to feel that she doesn't get to see her grandchildren all the time, and so it's just been a nice way for her to see them, in action, without her having to always figure out how to download photos from her iPad onto her, into her photos. It just is there, and it does a whole slideshow, and it allows other people to contribute to it. So there's just even just another simple. A simple tool that helps us really feel connected, and then we get in the phone and we talk about some of the images that we're seeing or that she's seen, or she'll text and say, oh, 3 images came up, they're so neat, thank you. And so it's been kind of a neat way for us to stay connected, just through photos. So those are some of the particular ways that technology can help with caregiving. And so I guess the other piece we want to talk about today is just the fact that not all digital applications are created equal, and as far as we know, there's no real accreditation process or specific qualifications that are needed to create some type of application, and so there's no guarantee that it's actually going to work. So being very due diligent, putting due diligence in place around how to really do your homework is really important. And what we also know is that sometimes these companies also pay reviewers to give really good reviews. And so, for example, going back to that frame, I had spoken to a friend about it, and they had a lot of success, and then it turned out another friend of mine had used it with their aging parents and had a lot of success. So trying to do your homework with other people, and maybe other forums, for example, caregiving forums, or places where you might caregiver support group, or if there's a Facebook group, you could put out that question to see what's worked for individuals. A similar one was this video application for seniors who were living with dementia, for example. Had spoken to, was going in to visit with some clients, and ended up seeing, a caregiver who was just showing their loved one how to use this video application. And I was really curious, and talked to them and said, how is that working? And has it been really easy to use, and are they difficult? And sort of got all the pros and cons, as well as doing research online. So that's probably the number one way is definitely to talk to others, and to put your question out there on trusted platforms or in trusted groups to see what other people are using. And then I guess the other one is typically you can always try something before you buy it. So you often have a period of time where you can see the bulk of the features to see if it's something that might work for you. And then just also there's a massive learning curve, and that just takes a lot of time, and technology can feel quite scary, quite frankly. I always think it's just a miracle when it works, So, and so even I, often feel like I'm not quite up to speed on, technology, and so it's this real opportunity to stay open and not be afraid of technology. With the understanding that, yeah, there's a real learning curve, and like anything in life, it doesn't, sometimes it works really well, and other times um, it doesn't. But I think at the end of the day, that there is a lot of benefit to using technology, and most of us, um, as family caregivers, end up, relying on it, and it can really help people feel less isolated. It'll never replace, face-to-face contact or spending time with the person that we're caring for, but it certainly can make certain parts of caregiving a little bit easier. So, with that, I bid you all a wonderful couple of weeks, and I'll be back in March. And I look forward to seeing you then. Hopefully, our temperatures are going to be warmer and we're going to be heading into spring. All right. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.